Hello, travel biz owner. Welcome to my corner of the travel industry, the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast. If you're ready to have fun, be inspired, get clarity, and take action in your travel business, then you're in the right place. Let's jump in. Hello, friends. Happy first day of March. I also have to let you know, I guess today we're kind of also celebrating. It is the 3-year birthday, unofficially. I'm saying that because around this time 3 years ago, the first ever Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast episodes first came out, episodes 1, 2, and 3. And it is just kind of like full circle moment thinking about the past 3 years and how I started this, because I think the first podcasts officially launched March 3rd of 2021. And I knew that I wanted to support the travel industry. I had no idea what I wanted to do though, or like how I was going to do that. So I was like, I had already been doing podcasting in my travel business. I was like, let me just start off with a podcast. I'll bring experts both inside and outside of the industry, and we'll kind of go from there. And I'll kind of figure out from then, like, where do I kind of lie in terms of how I want to help and support the travel industry to flourish. And so that's how we started. We had amazing experts, and it's funny kind of like looking back right now, because I am also working on a blog for the podcast that is not officially launched or anything, but I'm getting a lot of things done like in the background scenes to make that come to life, hopefully in the next couple of months. But that's a lot of like back work that I have to do, because today is the official 141st episode of the podcast. So you can imagine, like, that's over 100. That's a lot of blog posts to be writing. Thankful for technology like AI though, that will make it super, and has been making it super easier. So if you want to know a little bit about the AI that I use, it's something called Cast Magic. You can upload audio or you can upload video. And it not only provides you a transcript of that, but it will also like give you lots of ways to repurpose your videos or your audio, including like social media posts, giving you key topics, pulling out clips from the videos or the audio. So I cannot recommend this tech enough. I'll go ahead and I'll put my affiliate link. It's something that I use at least like once or twice a week, if not more often. So I am always in it, and a huge, like, there's a lot of tech that I like, and that is definitely one of them. But I would say, like, if you're not doing videos, if you're not doing audio, you probably don't need this kind of AI tech just yet. But if you're looking for ways to repurpose your content, and that can even be like reels that you create, this might be something that you want to look into, because you can even upload reels from your Instagram, or I think maybe even like your TikTok account. So you can upload that and repurpose that to maybe even creating like blog posts, or to creating like carousels, or sending out emails to your clients and all that. There's just so many fun things that you can do. I didn't mean to get off in a tangent about Cast Magic, but just saying that it is being super helpful in the direction of like really bringing a lot of visibility and awareness to the strategic travel entrepreneur. If we're going a little bit down memory lane too, and I know the focus, we're going to be talking about the differences and the comparisons of like travel advisor versus travel entrepreneur. But I think it's also important to let you know, I started out this podcast, and I think I would average like maybe 30 downloads an episode in the first 7 days, if that. So I need you to like know the period of growth, because it wasn't until last year, 2023, that I was kind of getting like closer to 50, 60, 75 downloads during that period. And this year I'm getting, I would say, depending on the episode, like 200, 250, maybe 275 episodes per download within the first 7 days that they're released. So huge growth, and there's a lot of different factors, but one of the biggest factors is, of course, you for listening to this podcast episode, you for sharing this podcast episode, you for giving me amazing ratings and reviews about these podcasts that I put out there. A lot of this is not possible without your support and without your cheering on. And the past couple of weeks have been a little bit rough on me, but you guys, you all continue to show up for the podcast, show up for me, of course, showing up for yourself in your business. And so I am just hugely in gratitude for you and for supporting me, supporting kind of sometimes the wacky things that I do. And I'm really glad that you enjoy this podcast and the different things that I can put out. I really wanted this to be a beacon for travel entrepreneurship and the different things that we have to deal with being travel entrepreneurs and think about, and that aren't widely talked about, or at least back then, back in 2021, weren't really widely talked about. And thankfully, there's so many more resources that are available these days. So you as travel entrepreneurs are much more well equipped than I was, definitely, when I first started in 2010. And especially a couple of years ago. So I hope that you see like the positive change and transformation that we're kind of making together. You really do shape this podcast. So if there are any people that you would like to hear about, any experts, maybe don't have to, if you're not sure like names or anything, just say like, I would love to hear from a copywriter, or I would love to hear from an insurance person, or I would love to hear from a lawyer. Thankfully, I have made really great connections with people both in and outside of this industry that I can find somebody to help answer any questions, especially when it comes to that entrepreneurial side and really owning that position that you have as a business owner. Many of you have heard my story, and yes, I did start my travel business in 2010, but I don't really feel like I owned that I was a travel business owner or really saw that I was a travel business owner till 2018. And a lot of that had to do with the exposure. Not having exposure to being an entrepreneur, like having resources to being an entrepreneur. There's lots of really great resources that tell me how to be a really great travel advisor, but not really great resources that tell me how to be a really great business owner. And that really is the mission, and has always been part of the mission and the vision of this podcast, is to really bring experts both in and outside of the industry that can help you own that travel entrepreneur mindset and that role that you have so daringly proclaim that you want to be in, because being a travel entrepreneur really is not for the faint of heart. Being any sort of entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. So what is the difference between a travel advisor, and you can insert anything here, because I would even insert like tour operator or any person that kind of like works within the travel business as an employee. I'm also kind of taking my background when I used to work at the theme parks, because I was an employee working at the theme parks. There's a lot of things I didn't have to worry about. If you are a travel advisor employee, like this is how I imagine the day kind of going. You clock in, you check your emails, check to see what's going on with your clients or anybody that you may be assisting. Then you maybe have to go on the phones, answer any questions, help people that have made any reservations. And I'm thinking like big call center, but this could also be like if you're an employee for a small travel advisorship as well. And so it's really those day-to-day tasks of being a travel advisor. You're booking different people's travel and trips and all their travel components. You're advising them of the different options. Maybe it's like time of year. Maybe it's the difference in cruise lines. Maybe it is you should really try this instead of that because this has been on your bucket list, but this may fall a little bit on your budget. So all those individualities that come with travel. So you're selling the travel, you're booking the travel, You're providing customer service whenever anybody has any questions. Do I need a passport to go here? Do I need to show up to the airport an hour before? Where are my tickets for XYZ? All the questions we know that frequently come in as a travel advisor. And then pretty much assist where needed in your operation. So like my last position when I was working as an employee, I was a senior labor analyst, but there would be lots of different things outside of labor budgets, scheduling, workforce management that we could assist with, like timekeeping. We would help the timekeeping team. So workforce and things like that, or Chronos, that's what the tech was called. We would also periodically help train people. So that might be if you're working like in an office setting as a travel advisor, training on new advisors might be another task that you take on. And then like you do your lunch, you do your breaks, and you clock out. And you get to do whatever you would like to do after hours. A travel business owner, specifically if you were in the travel agency industry, you have to do all that, and you have to be consistently looking for leads. You need to make sure that you consistently have people coming in your pipeline so that you have people selling too. As an employee, that's what management, that's what ownership is in charge of. You're not in charge of that. You are just in charge of making sure that people's reservations are taken care of and you're good to go. Leadership is in charge of making sure that there's people coming in the door. You're also in charge of like making sales. And like when I think of this, what kinds of data do you need to make sales decisions, to build sales strategies? What kinds of data do you need to make decisions about marketing? You need to figure out where are you going to be to increase your visibility? What's easiest to you to increase your visibility? Are you doing social media? Are you having a website? Are you working on SEO? Do you have a podcast? Are you going to use Pinterest? Are you going to have a weekly show on YouTube? How are you going to meet people? Are you going to be going to networking events or virtual networking events? Are you just going to engage on social media, attend virtual conferences in the areas that your clients might be going to? So making those decisions, strategizing those decisions, and then kind of following up. You also have to be making goals for this business. How much do you want to be earning? How much do you need to be earning in your business to take care of all of the income that you need to be making for the year? On top of like thinking about goal setting, you also need to be in charge of the financials. So making sure that your taxes are paid, making sure that your bookkeeping's up to date. Now, sometimes you can outsource this, but especially when you're a baby entrepreneur, you're kind of like wearing all of these hats. Then I think about mitigating risk. That is a huge difference between a travel advisor employee and a travel advisor entrepreneur. The employee is like hunky dory, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna book all this travel, and then I'm gonna go home. The travel advisor entrepreneur needs to think about, oh my gosh, my terms and conditions. I need to make sure I'm covered for that. Has this person signed this agreement? I need to make sure there's an agreement. Do we have an agreement for that? Maybe I need to hire an attorney to build me an agreement for that. What about my insurance? Are all my bases covered? Do I have E&O? Do I have cybersecurity insurance? All the like. There's all that risk. And then seller of travel laws. There's so much that's involved in just mitigating the risk. And then, of course, like you are operating a business. So that involves systems, that involves processes. There's workflows, there's tech tools, there's your home office setup. There maybe you're renting out office space because you don't have the space at home or you don't want to do business at home. Maybe it is just like you're renting a little cubicle. Maybe you're renting like a full storefront. Then that comes with its other set of challenges and burdens. This is the difference between being an employee and an entrepreneur. If you just love to travel, you can be an employee. You can work for somebody else's travel agency. There's a different reason that you have joined the travel industry as a business owner. There's also, if you love to travel, I mean, there's so many different other means for you to be getting in this industry. But you became an entrepreneur for a reason. And typically that reason is some sort of freedom. You want the freedom to earn any amount of income that you'd like without having like that cap that you have being paid hourly or salary. They cap you and they say you can only earn X amount of dollars per hour, X amount of dollars per year. And there is really a limitless potential when it comes to being a business owner for yourself. There's also that freedom of time that you get to decide, when are you working, when are you taking off, when are you taking a vacation time. And then I'm also thinking too, that's amazing, but then you also have to think as a business owner, if I'm taking time during this holiday season or during this break or whatever it might be, what are you doing to make sure that your income is still being built and generated? Or what have you already done? Have you made enough sales to cover you for being off for that week or that few couple of days? Travel employee doesn't have to think about that. They've got their vacation time, they've got their sick time, they've got their maybe FMLA and all that. There's so many things I now kind of think, I'm like, wow, that was a grand time. But there's also a lot of not great things about being an employee. And I just think a lot about office politics and corporate poo-poo that happens. And that's a huge reason why I became like a full-time entrepreneur back in 2021, is because I was just done dealing with that. And I was ready to put the faith in myself and my abilities that I could do it and be on my own. So these are kind of the biggest major differences. So if you're kind of like, that was a lot more than I thought about, you may want to consider like being maybe an independent contractor for somebody else's business and not having to worry about. And this is why, we've been talking a lot about individuality recently and how there's a lot of different, host agencies that you can go to, but there's even like, you don't have to work with a host agency if you want to be a travel advisor entrepreneur. You can work with a franchise. You can also just do it on your own. There's so many successful independent advisors that are out there that have made partnerships like with consortia and all of these other, supplier partners, and they have done things on their own and been focused on that. But that all takes strategy and implementation. It's not like some sort of willy-nilly thing out there. So really, there are so many more responsibilities, and it doesn't have to be all on you. There are things that you can hire out either as employees or as contract, which also bring into other legalities when we're thinking about employment law, independent contractor law, making sure people are paid on time, having agreements in place, either or. What if somebody has to go out for a leave of absence, medical, comp time, all that kind of stuff? There is just a lot more, but I know for me, and I know for many of you, the benefits of owning your business is worth all of that. Like, I regret 0% leaving that guaranteed paycheck, even though some days are more stressful than others, managing my own business. But I can breathe easier. I was in a very toxic situation when I left that corporate-y type world at the theme parks. And that, like, my mental sanity, my mental joy is worth so much more than being employed somewhere else. And that freedom to be like, yeah, I want to take a trip next week. Let's do it. And being able to make and strategize those decisions. So you kind of have to think about that for yourself. There's also been so much talk recently about like people getting into this business as an easy side hustle. And I'm sorry to tell you, if you haven't already figured out, being a travel advisor entrepreneur is not an easy side hustle. It's not an easy way out. There is a lot of work that has to be done between like building relationships with potential clients, potential referral partners, and supplier relationships so that you are well educated on a travel product. You kind of know the procedures and policies so that you can relay that information to your clients. You have to make sure that you're staying on top of deadlines to make sure that you're getting paid. You have to, if you're hosted, you have to make sure that that reservation is in whatever CRM that you need to have to be paid by your host agency and all that. There is just so much more, but I know there's so many of us who we wouldn't trade this life for anything. I think it's also important to note that just because you also came into this industry as a travel advisor doesn't mean that that's the only way that you can make money. There are so many ways to make money within this industry that you can complement things. And I think it's especially important when we're thinking in the long term and we're thinking about the what ifs. How many what if types of situations? I'm a millennial, and there's been lots of what if situations where the economy was great, then the economy was down, aka 9/11. The economy was great, and then the economy was down, the housing crisis of 2008. Then the economy was great, then the economy was down. Thank you so much, the pandemonium. And so I think that's something that especially that I look at is that it's nice to have income coming from multiple streams. And that's not just me saying like something financially savvy and copying what other people are saying, but especially in an industry that can be so volatile like travel entrepreneurship, where when economic times are kind of tough, travel is something that people start cutting out first as opposed to other things, because nobody's going to cut out on gas or groceries because they need that to operate their daily lives and all that. And I could argue that travel is needed to operate your daily life and for mental health and all that, but it's been historically that if there's some sort of big economic downturn, that is what people cut out first or switch around first. And so what can you do, or how can you prepare yourself for when those times come? Because there will be another time. Hopefully not as dramatic. It might be as dramatic. Like it's just economics. There are ebbs and flows with everything. And so that is also why, especially like last week's episode and just thinking about the future ahead, I think that part of being a travel entrepreneur is also planning for the what ifs, especially if you are the sole income earner for your family, or your income or needing two incomes in a household or multiple incomes in the household is very, very important and critical. Or even thinking like if there's a situation that, what if you are double income? Or what if your partner is the sole income earner? What if you no longer had that income to rely on? What would happen? And so I don't say this to put fear in, but I think that's one of the big things that we think about. And especially like if I'm thinking like a big company that is in charge of all of these entrepreneurial aspects, you also have to be thinking of the big picture and how you are going to buffer yourself or put some protection in yourself so that if one revenue stream isn't doing as well, you can pick right up along with a different revenue stream or invest your time in a different revenue stream while the other one takes a little bit of time to pick back up. And so those are the biggest things that I would say are really the differences between being an employee and being an entrepreneur. There is so much more responsibility. And I also want you to know, because I feel like sometimes people misconstrue this sometimes, that even if you're an independent contractor, you're still an entrepreneur. It is still your business. Not until like you are being paid to clock in and clock out, like you are still in charge of things. Because I know that there's some people who feel like they're owed a lot more things as an independent contractor, and you're just not. Like, that's not what this is for. Like, if you didn't want to have any responsibility, or if you didn't want to have huge liability, again, you should probably consider going the employee route, because that is going to be the easier route. Like, as I mentioned, this is not an easy business. And I'm also not saying that this is a horrible, terrible business, but I need you to understand the realities of what it is to be a business owner, and to be holding all the pots in the air, and to be wearing all the hats within your business, until you're at a point where you can start hiring on help and hiring that out. But we all start from square one. Sometimes it takes a couple of years, or most times it takes a couple of years. Sometimes you end back up somewhere where you didn't think that you were. So you just have to keep going with it. I mean, I always like to go back to thinking like you were courageous enough to file your EIN with the IRS. You were courageous enough to file your LLC paperwork, to file your seller of travel paperwork. You made investments with your host, or within your own business, or with a franchise. That was not because you didn't think you could do it. Now, you may not have realized all that encompasses owning a business within the travel industry, but you also had the guts, you also had the audacity to make different decisions. So I want you to start thinking about your business, if you're not already doing so, with that same spicy hot chili pepper, with that spiciness that you started. And like, don't wait for things to happen in your business. Like, that again is employee mindset. Employee is thinking about, okay, I need to get my orders here. What do I need to do for the day? I need my tasks from my boss. You are the boss. You make the rules. You make up the task lists. So what is it that's most important in your business? Is that finding new clients? Is that I have too many clients and my systems are all messed up? Is that, okay, I'm in a great flow in my business and now I need bigger picture. I want bigger clients, better vacations that I'm booking, because I don't want to be working 24/7 in my business all the time. And that strategic thinking that really gets you as the CEO of your travel business. So I hope that this episode has been helpful and at least given you a little bit of boost of motivation. I am virtually patting you on the back that you have a wonderful time building your travel business. You've already come so far, no matter where you are at in your journey. I need you to remember we're all at different stages. We're all at different phases. Sometimes we roll up, sometimes we roll down, but there is amazing support for you within this industry, including this podcast. So thank you so much for listening, including Marketing Business School, my amazing community of amazing travel advisors who are doing all sorts of entrepreneurial things. I am both in disbelief and like, oh my gosh, okay, let's get this first quarter done, because we are officially in the third month of the first quarter of the year. Did I say fourth? First quarter. I don't even want to think about fourth quarter this year. But I am so excited for us in Marketing Business School to start talking and making those second quarter plans, but also reviewing what went well, what didn't work well in this first quarter. So if you'd like to get some of that support, make sure to check out the link in the show description. And then, there are also amazing people outside of me and outside of this podcast that you can also turn to. So if you're needing support in your business that may not be something that I provide, feel free to reach out to me, because I would love to connect you with some amazing resources that I am very much aware of, and would love for you to support a fellow travel entrepreneur. All right, you have a fantabulous week, and I'll see you back here next week. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Remember to check out the show notes for all relevant links and resources from today's show. See you next time.